What makes something completely priceless while something else is, well, worthless? Today, we're going to deconstruct one of the most powerful ideas in our world, value. And to do it, we're going to look at some of the most expensive things you could possibly imagine.
So let me just ask you straight up, what do you think is the most expensive thing in the entire known universe? Go on, have a guess. What pops into your head?
You thinking of some kind of flawless, giant diamond? Nope, not even in the same league.
Okay, how about a massive palace? Something out of a fairy tale covered in gold? Good guess, but no, not that either. The most valuable thing in the universe is, believe it or not, a substance. Something so incredibly rare and so powerful it honestly feels like it's been pulled straight out of science fiction. And the price tag? You might want to sit down for this. $62.5 trillion. And that's per gram. Just let that sink in for a second. A single gram costs more than the economies of most of the world's countries combined.
And that substance is antimatter. It's the perfect mirror image of everything we're made of. You, me, this planet. But here's the catch. When it touches normal matter, they both just vanish instantly in a burst of 100% pure energy. And that incredible power is exactly why it has that mind-blowing price tag.
But look, to even begin to understand a number like 62.5 trillion, we have to take a step back. We need to ask a more basic question. How do we decide something is valuable in the first place? It turns out, value is really just a story we all agree on, and there are a few different ways to tell that story. Let's start with one of the biggest ones, provenance. This is a fancy word for a simple idea. An object is valuable because of its story. You know, who's owned it, where it's been, the whole journey. And for this, there is no better example on Earth than the Hope Diamond. I mean, just look at this timeline. Every single step adds another layer of legend. It starts deep inside an Indian mine, finds its way into the hands of French kings, gets stolen during a revolution, vanishes, and then pops up again with a new name. Every person who touched it, every event it witnessed, it all adds to the mystique and, yep, to the price. And this is the absolute best part. You've heard of the famous curse of the Hope Diamond, right? Well, guess what? It was completely made up. It was a brilliant marketing plan from the early 1900s, a story invented just to make the diamond seem more mysterious and, you guessed it, more desirable. A fabricated story created very, very real value. The story itself became the asset. Okay, so that's value from a story. But what if it's not about a long history? What if something is valuable simply because it's the only one? This is the value of rarity, of pure scarcity. And to see this in action, we have to step into the world of ridiculously expensive classic cars. So let's just be crystal clear about the difference here. With provenance, like the Hope Diamond, the story is the main asset. But with rarity, the object itself is the asset, just because it's so irreplaceable and unique. Two different paths to an insane price tag. And what makes a car rare enough to be worth millions? Well, it's this whole cocktail of factors. Of course, it helps if only a few are ever built, but then you add in things like, does it have all its original parts? Did it win a legendary race? Was it driven by someone famous? All these little details stack up to create something so scarce and so wanted that people will pay almost anything for it. But there's a third type of value, and this one isn't about the past, and it's not about being one of a kind. It's about pure, unfiltered human ambition. It's the value you create when one person's vision becomes a reality, no matter what it costs. And for this, we have to travel to Mumbai, to a very famous address, Altamont Road. This is Antilia. It's the private home of Mukesh Ambani and his family. And these stats, they're just mind-boggling, aren't they? This isn't a house. It's basically a skyscraper, a vertical city built for just one family. Think about it. 600 staff to run it. Its value comes from the sheer audacity of it even existing. And if you want some perspective, just look at this comparison. We are talking about a private house built in our lifetime that is valued in the same league as Buckingham Palace, the historical home of the British Crown. That tells you everything about the power and the value of an uncompromising vision. So this brings us full circle, all the way back to that $62.5 trillion substance. We've seen value that comes from history, from rarity, and from ambition. But antimatter, it represents the final, most abstract kind of value, the value of pure, untapped potential. This chart is everything. It shows you exactly why antimatter is so valuable. The energy you'd get from annihilating just 1 single gram is nearly 3 times more powerful than the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. It's not valuable for what it is right now. It's valuable for what it could do, how it could change everything from energy to space travel. And that's the key, isn't it? The Hope Diamond's value is completely wrapped up in its long, dramatic past. Antimatter's value is locked away in a future that we can barely even wrap our heads around. One looks back, the other looks forward.
You know, all of this reminds me of a great quote from Mark Twain. Provenance, rarity, ambition, potential. What are any of these things really? They're just stories. Stories that we've decided are important. Prejudices we've all agreed to believe in.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. If value is really just a story that enough people agree on, what does that say about the things we treasure today? And maybe more importantly, what are the new stories of value that we're all writing right now? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.